I want to talk with you a little bit about the importance of building character. And I didn't know that until, pretty recently, I guess, but how important it is that we live in line with our values. A lot of times we're searching, or what I like to say, barking up the wrong tree. I know that for many years I had been barking up the wrong tree. And what I mean by that is that I was trying really, really hard and not getting any satisfaction. And so then I would go and I would look for another tree. Or I would think, maybe that's not the right tree. I'll go towards that tree and then I'll start barking. And as I've gotten a little bit older and learned a little bit more, I've realized that it's not that I've been barking up the wrong tree. I just need to stop barking. And I need to grow up from the bottom up. What do I mean by that? Well, I need to live according to my values. So what are my values? Well, in thinking about this, people will oftentimes say, well, wait a second, living in accordance with my values. I'm a good person. I'm so nice. A friend of mine said to me recently, I think my problem in relationships is that I'm too nice. And I said, well, you are too nice. She said, oh, thank you. You're so sweet. I said, no, that's not a compliment. What I mean by you being too nice is you being more like a weather vane and less like the wind. The goal is to be the wind. And so how do we become the wind? What do we have to do? Well, we have to build our character core and live according to our values so that we don't have any skeletons in our closet, so that we can, in fact, walk down the street with our head held high. This is a true story. Several years ago, I knew something was off as I was barking up those wrong trees. And every night before I went to bed, I would say a little prayer. And I would say, please, God, help me to make decisions tomorrow so that I could walk down the street with my head held high. And I didn't mean in a prideful way. I didn't want to boastfully walk down the road, but I just wanted to be able to be proud of myself. And so I thought, wait a second, I'm not a bad person. Why don't I feel good about myself? Why am I living this way? Why aren't I living according to my values? And it happened very innocently and gradually by making decisions based on fear on a daily basis. The little decisions and the big, huge, major life decisions I made based on fear. And what happened then is I kind of got away from my core. Well, what's the problem with what I call core drifting? Well, the problem with core drifting is that when we drift away from that which we believe and we're not behaving in accordance with our values, we end up not feeling good. We just don't feel right. We feel uncomfortable. And as human beings, when we feel uncomfortable, we're going to do something to make ourselves more comfortable. Now, here's the problem with that. When we want to do something to make ourselves more comfortable in desperation, that it needs to be instant gratification, well, the things that help us to feel better immediately are usually things that aren't so great for us. And when we do those things to make ourselves more comfortable, it's usually something that's going to take us that much further from our core values. And the vicious cycle ensues. And so what do? Well, what I decided to do for myself when I saw myself clearly and thought, oh my gosh, I've just gotten so far away from what matters, I found 4 things that I believe build our character core. Number 1, accountability. Number 2, responsibility. Number 3, honesty. Number 4, integrity. I made a steadfast commitment to self, not to anybody else. I didn't want to be honest for somebody else. I wanted to be honest so that I could feel better, walk down the street with my head held high, not have any skeletons in my closet, and be able to be proud of me. And so I made a commitment to honor those things on a daily basis, regardless of the consequences. What I mean by regardless of the consequences, I wasn't doing anything to hurt anybody. I would say, oh yeah, I'll call you right back. And I wouldn't call the person back. I would say, oh my gosh, yeah, let me meet you for lunch next week, having no intention of meeting that person for lunch. Or I would tell my daughter that I would be out of work in order to pick her up from school on time, when in fact, I was afraid to tell my boss that I was going to have to leave early. So I wasn't accountable to either person because I was sneaking out of work, not telling my boss, showing up late for my daughter, not accountable, not responsible, not being honest, having absolutely no integrity. And so I knew that those were the 4 things that were lacking, and that's what I needed in order to feel good. I needed to not look outside of myself. I needed to build myself. And so what is honesty? Honesty with self, and only when you're honest with yourself can you be honest with other people. What I learned is that while being dishonest in the moment might make me a little bit more comfortable, might not disappoint somebody immediately as they're looking in my eye, it ended up ultimately really hurting others. And it was tainting my core. And if you don't have yourself, if you can't trust yourself and other people can't trust you, I mean, what do you really have? And so it was ultimately important that I was honest with myself. I'm honest because I value me. I don't want to tear myself apart. Nothing is worth that. I'm honest with other people because I need to stay humble. I mean, who am I to alter their reality? And so if I'm going to tell somebody something that's not necessarily true, well, they're going to believe that. And they're going to act as if that's the truth, which means that that could affect decisions that they make in their day, in their life. And who am I to alter their reality? I am just Lauren. I am just a human being, just like they are. And so, I mean, what do I think? I'm God? No, we have to stay humble. And what that means is telling the truth. I'm honest because I value other people. Honesty. Let's move on to responsibility. Now, I kind of learned what responsibility was, and I would have always said, oh, well, I'm a responsible person. And what I meant is that I did my schoolwork by the due date and things like that. But I mean responding and not reacting to our environment. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we need to behave as if we're behaving in a vacuum. So we can't say, well, yes, I reacted, but I did this because he did that. I did this because she won't do this. And so we can't justify our behavior based on what somebody else does. We need to act as if we are behaving on our own because we are always responsible for us. What does that mean? We can only control what we say and what we do. And so we always need to be responsible for that. So regardless of how somebody else is behaving, we always need to be responsible for us. So what does that mean? Not reacting to situations, not reacting to others, not reacting to our environment. It means responding, which in my case, most times means sitting and doing absolutely nothing. In order to respond, I need to not have an emotional reaction. And if I don't want to have an emotional reaction, I need time. And so I just kind of need to sit and do nothing, wait for my emotions to dissipate so that I can think rationally, and then I can make a good, solid decision for myself. I can respond with grace, responsibility, accountability, doing what I say I'm going to do. It's a biggie. Like I said, saying you're going to call somebody. If you say that, you got to do it. Call them back. If you say, you know what, I'm going to go to lunch with you next week, you have to go to lunch with them. If you're not going to go, don't say it. I'm not telling you have to call them. I'm telling you if you say you're going to, then you have to. You have to have your word mean something. If your word doesn't mean something, you don't feel good, other people don't respect you, and you don't respect yourself. You need to be accountable. Do what you say you're going to do. And integrity. Doing the right thing when nobody's looking. I was a big fan of when all eyes were on me. I always knew the right thing to do. Then in private, I'd say, I don't know. If I knew what to do, if I knew the next right thing, I would do it, but I just don't know. You know what? We always know. The only time we pretend we don't know is when we don't feel like doing the next right thing. And we just need a little bit of time to erase that cognitive dissonance. And so the bottom line is you need to do the right thing even when no eyes are on you. Why? Because you're not doing the right thing for somebody else. You're doing the right thing for you. And what do I mean by that? Well, in order to respect yourself, in order to walk down the street with your head held high, in order to feel good, do good, in order to not continuously be looking for trees to bark, in order to sit down and just stop barking, you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of you. To do that, you have to have integrity. So what do you need? You need to be accountable, responsible, honest, and have integrity. And you're doing that, and it's going to be great for everybody else. But you know what? Ultimately, it's most important for you because nothing is worth you selling yourself out. And you must know that once you are good for the sake of being well, there's no turning back because I promise you, it feels so good. Everything that you've been looking for out here, once you build up that character core, there's just no going back. Patrick Carnes says, consider yourself called. And that's what it feels like because all of a sudden you're you and you're present and you can live the life that you deserve. So be accountable, responsible, honest, have integrity so that you can walk down the street with your head held high. with vigor.